Now, I ain't saying I'm Indiana Jones, but I got a theory on where the Ark of the Covenant is. I'm gonna make some folks mad with this one. Oh man. But I gotta put it out there, y'all, because it makes sense to me. Let's look at the parallels that led me to this theory. What are the items associated with the Ark of the Covenant? If we examine Hebrews 9:4, we see that these items are the law on stone tablets, a golden jar of manna, and the staff of Aaron, which had budded with almond blossoms and almonds. Nutty. Now let's get to my theory that's gonna have nuns and church grandmas lined up outside with paddles to beat up on my booty. Ow, my booty! Is that all you got, grandma? When the adulteress was brought out to be stoned, I guess the guy she was getting her freak on with was too fast and he couldn't catch him. But they were about to stone her, and Jesus not only said something, but he did something that made them drop their rocks. Remember, Jesus always pointed back to scripture to show who he is. They didn't just drop their rocks because he called them out on their hypocrisy. They dropped their rocks because by him writing on the ground with his finger, he showed them a picture of himself as God writing the law to Moses with his finger. Because remember, that's how the Ten Commandments were first written, by the finger of God. So Jesus be like, yo, you see this finger? Before y'all try to school me on Mosaic law, it was this finger that wrote the Ten Commandments in stone before Moses in the first place. Scratch, scratch. And who is Jesus? Not only is he the author of the law, he is the law. The law that was written in stone by the finger of God himself was broken by Moses because of the Israelites' rejection of God and their desires for another. Jesus, the law himself, was broken because the Jews rejected him and desired another. They were expecting a different Messiah. They didn't want him. Like the law was broken by Moses, Jesus pointed them back to that and said, this is my body which has been broken for you. So the law associated with the Ark of the Covenant isn't just a what, but a who. Now to the next item, the golden jar of manna. Now manna basically means, what is this? So they be looking at manna and be like, what's this stuff? Some cereal. It's supposed to be good for you. Are you gonna try it? I'm not gonna try it. You try it. Let's get Mikey to try it. He'll eat anything. However, despite calling it manna for not knowing what it was, Psalm 78:24 gives us insight as to what it was, which says he rained down manna upon them and gave them food from heaven to eat. Man did eat the bread of angels. He sent them food in abundance. So basically, manna was bread, but it's also described as flakes and wafers or even seeds. But ultimately, it's consumed as bread. So when Jesus refers to himself as bread and who is from heaven, he's once again pointing them back to scripture and saying, hey, are y'all making the correlation between that bread from heaven back in the day and me? Yeah, I'm that bread. I'm that dude. So the bread from heaven has gone from being a what to a who, which brings us to the third item associated with the Ark of the Covenant, the staff of Aaron. Moses is instructed by God to tell Aaron to throw down his staff and it's going to become a snake before Pharaoh. Now, puffed up Pharaoh tried to get even mightier and called in Professor Snape and Voldemort to come in and do the same thing. Well, the snakes of the Egyptian warlocks were devoured by Aaron's. That snake is a picture of Christ who takes sin upon himself. The snake is a picture of Christ as further substantiated as when the Israelites brought on themselves the punishment of being struck by venomous snakes. And the cure was in God telling Moses to lift up a staff with a bronze serpent on it. And if the Israelites would just look upon this serpent, they would be healed. How does this snake continue to be affirmed as a picture of Christ? Just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up. So I'm not pulling the snake Jesus thing out of my own calculations. This is coming from the Bible. So Jesus be like, yeah, you know how Aaron's staff became a snake? Yeah, I'm that dude. The staff is a dead stick, but it had been restored to a life-giving branch. This represents the resurrection. A staff is a branch that was cut off, and this cut off branch that should be dead sprouted new life. Jesus himself comes from a cut off branch. Let's examine Isaiah 11:1. There shall come forth a shoot from the stump of Jesse, and a branch from his roots shall bear fruit. How is Jesus further likened to the staff of Aaron? Because the staff, a dead branch, bore fruit. Excuse me, Zo, but almonds are nuts, like you. Well, an almond isn't really a nut, like me. An almond is a drupe, I think that's how you say it, which is actually a fruit of the indohesion variety. I think I said indohesion, right? or stone fruit. So the staff of Aaron is a branch that was cut off and bore fruit. Jesus is a cut off branch, but still from the root of Jesse. On another note, almonds share something in common with snakes. They're poisonous, and they have to be handled carefully. The very nourishing aspects of the almond and the poisonous aspect of the almonds is an indication of God saying, be nurtured and thrive in me, or handle me in disregard and suffer my wrath. So to recap, Jesus be like, hey, you know how that staff became a snake, and how a snake would be lifted up on a staff in the wilderness, and how it's a cut off branch that's restored to a life-giving branch? Well, yeah, I'm that dude. So the staff associated with the Ark of the Covenant goes from a what to a who. And just like the items associated with the Ark of the Covenant have gone from a what to a who, the Ark itself goes from a what to a who, or whom. Which one is it, grammar Nazis? What was placed inside the Ark? The law. Who is Jesus? The law. Where was the law placed? Within the Virgin Mary. Oh, no, you didn't. Oh, yes, I did. David said that nobody but the Levites can go before the Lord in the Ark of the Covenant. John the Baptist is in the Levitical line, and he leaped in his mother's womb in the presence of Mary, because he's a Levite appointed to go before the Lord in the Ark of the Covenant, which carries the law. And Mary was the Ark carrying the law. Only a Levite can go before the Lord, which is also why John the Baptist could be appointed to baptize Jesus. Now Aaron was instructed to sprinkle the blood of the sacrificed animal upon the ark 7 times. Why? Well, I submit to you this. We know that God wrote the law with his finger. The finger of God points to the law. The number 7 represents the complete work of God. 7 sprinkles of blood on the atonement cover of the ark. What is the number 7? The complete work of God. The Ark of the Covenant has to be sprinkled with blood 7 times. The number 7 represents the completion of God's work. With 7 representing the number of completion, the 7 sprinkles of spilled blood on the atonement cover was prophesying of Jesus, who would make the announcement of completion as he shouted, "It is finished." Now, where was Mary? Well, she was right there with John the disciple, who was also quite possibly a Levite. But if he wasn't, that's okay, because we're all adopted in, thanks to Jesus. But he may very well have been a Levite. Like, say for instance, he was John the Baptist's disciple, and John the Baptist was a Levite. And it seems like John the disciple was well known by the priests, but his genealogy isn't really defined in the Bible that I know of. But here's the deal. 7 sprinkles of sacrificed blood, 7 being the number of God's completed work. Jesus said, "It is finished." Jesus reaffirming the association with the number 7 with God's completed work. In this case, 7 sprinkles of blood. Anyway, Jesus, upon the completion of his work, was stabbed in his rib, where blood and water gushed out from he who had completed his work as indicated with the number 7. And sprinkles of his blood fell upon Mary, just as the blood was sprinkled upon the ark. So for those who are asking what happened to the Ark of the Covenant, I offer you this. Just as the contents associated with the Ark of the Covenant became personified in Jesus Christ, I'd say the Ark itself became personified in Mary. The contents associated with the Ark of the Covenant were pictures of Christ. The Ark of the Covenant itself was a picture of Mary. But thank you so much for listening to my observations on it. And if you like what you heard, I hope you find my work worth supporting.